But let me quickly start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. It talks about COVID-19 restrictions being enforced still. Executive Instrument 188 in place. So if you thought, the executive instrument or the legislation when it comes to COVID-19 had somehow been exhausted or been sidelined, no, it is still in existence. That is according to checks by the Daily Graphic at the Attorney General's office and the Ghana Publishing Company, or Assembly Press. Question is, if it still is in force, how come we're seeing what we're seeing all over the place? I mean, nowadays I can count the number of people who are wearing masks, those I meet, outside of work, of course. Here, all of us do, but when you hit the streets, most people simply do not care. And I think it's got to the point where when people see you now with a mask, you are the oddity. You are the oddball, the odd one out. But I guess we all ought to take more precautions. Crush piracy networks, Vice President tells maritime security agencies. Apparently, Mamavi, the Gulf of Guinea was the most active globally when it comes to piracy in the world. And that is quite a bit of cause for alarm. Rising prices of goods and services, Council of State engages industry players. I was following the story yesterday, and it appears the cost of everything from cement to iron rods to foodstuff that you buy at the market have shot up, and there have been some engagement with industry people to find out what can be done about these prices in these COVID-19 times. 5 die in gory accident at Omenako. First half-year deaths surpass 1,450. It just keeps getting worse. Just keeps getting worse. When you go to the middle spread of the paper, counter-terrorism project for 5 West African countries launched. We're committed to renewable energy generation. That's according to Mr. President. And then Adra disturbances inquiry. Our intervention saved situation. That's according to the military. And yesterday I couldn't help but smile in interest when, was it David Ajim had his... Yes, had his turn, after which Philip Hammond also had his turn. And looking at them and their body language and the reactions, I'll keep them there. But some interesting things that came up yesterday, different dynamics to the story. Of course, as we delve into it, we'll be bringing you more of that. On the back page, Ghana, Switzerland signed 2 agreements and 4 arrested in Western Region Galamsey pit swoop. That's it for the Daily Graphic.
Let's jump into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On the front page, on the Agyapong killings probes, military returned fire for fire, according to the Central Commander. Gulf of Guinea tops global kidnapping for ransom cases in 2020. Fire personnel battled the Makola fire for 3 days, we're being told. President courts Swiss support to increase renewable energy. If you go to page 3, man allegedly murders wife at Breman Esikuman. So this is a 39-year-old woman, and we're told there was a misunderstanding, and it led to him allegedly killing her. And then he also attempted committing suicide by drinking some poison, but of course he did not die. Police is now looking further into the matter. They said the suspect has committed a crime at Esekuma. So they've got records on him. When the police contacted colleagues at Esekuma, they said that the murder of Adiza, that's the name of the deceased now, was reported to them. Okay, so suspect was under armed guard at the hospital receiving treatment while investigation into the case continued. And then a suspected robber was killed and another wounded when a gang engaged the police in a shootout in Obuasi in the Ashanti region on Monday. Police has given details of those involved, but they were arrested at St. Peter's Catholic Hospital at Jacobo, where one of them was receiving treatment from gunshot wounds. The rest of the story is on page 3. Anti-Galamsey Task Force has arrested 4 suspected illegal miners, and that story is also in the paper today on page 3. If you look at the center spread, We need innovative technologies to check road accidents, according to the Chief Executive Officer of the State Transport Corporation, STC. There's a story about a chief warning. Okay, so that's on page 24. Techiman Omahene warns noise makers, and he says, excessive noise within his jurisdiction is not entertained, and this is to minimize the noise, or as in persons must minimize the noise or be dealt with according to law. So it's Osiadeyo Ameyao, Ekumfi Ameyao the Fourth, the paramount chief of Techiman Traditional Council, given this warning.
It's interesting, isn't it? Osiadeyo. So what he's threatening, he will do. Osiadeyo, Okaobeye. So what he's threatening here, he will likely execute.
Sometimes the noise gets really annoying, very annoying. And then this is the fire service also saying that fire on the 4-story building at Makola in Accra ignited again for the 3rd day yesterday, for which personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service were still battling pockets of fires on the building. I think what I heard was that some of the stores, especially around the area affected, were not allowed to operate. I think I'm not sure the number of people that they've evacuated, but it looks like we have the entire place. Maybe there's something particularly wrong with the building itself, especially when it has a basement and we're told there are some combustible materials kept in there.
So on day 2, we were told there was a warehouse which had some combustible material, which you would have expected that on day 1, first of all, there would have been some communication with those who had stores and stalls in the place to find out what sort of material was in there. I would expect that the Ghana National Fire Service would want to investigate those matters, because they also investigate to avert some of these matters. Now on day 2, we had a reignition of the fire, and here we are. Even after the 3rd day, there's still, more fire to be dealt with. That just paints a very disturbing picture, because if the structure itself also loses its structural integrity or whatever and comes down, then that is going to be another problem on its own. If the structure collapses, because the fire would weaken, the building itself. So I think we really need to take a hard look at that. And beyond that, how we deal with, quenching fires.
We can't even be sure that that fire would be reignited again. This is the 4th day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if it's
on day 3,
it
was reignited.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
On day 4, we can't be sure. And we hope that the fire service has everything under control now. At least now they know what they're dealing with.
Do they?
Well, they've been there for a while.
If there are combustibles somewhere else in this building, we can only pray that it doesn't reignite. I mean, we've seen it over and again, and I don't know how much. When you read the stories, they will not tell you that, now we've exhausted every combustible element in there. So we can only hope that
it's difficult
things
because
get
you know
better.
how, in the market things happen. It's not like there's only one person keeping their wares there. So you can't tell. There are different people who will come and deposit. And even the owner of the place may not know exactly what is.
But this is where it is very good to have some systems in place. So of course, we know if you go to the Accra Mall, for example, you can even, when you Google it, you would know which stores are in there, right?
You're talking about the Accra Mall.
No, but I'm saying that this should be replicated in our different facilities, especially in a place as crammed as Makola.
Who manages? Because we know that there's the
exactly
mall. There's the Makola Mall.
Exactly.
That is managed. But the other side of the Makola Mall, who manages those
why
facilities?
isn't it being managed properly? And the least we can do is know that we have X number of stores, that there are X number of people who are plying their trade in them, and that this is what they sell. That helps you. Firecrackers have been banned, for example. People still sell them anyway. But imagine if someone there was selling firecrackers. You should be able to know and say that, in store 37, you need to target that place because there's someone who sells firecrackers there. So we need to target it before it causes an explosion or something. If we can't do that, then what in essence are we doing?
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe this gives us an opportunity to pull down such structures and get it under proper management. Yeah.
Well, let's check out the Daily Dispatch very quickly. The Ghanaian media can start a war in Ghana. Kennedy Agyapong says that. It's on the back page. Let me just quickly get into that. And Asin Central MP, that is Kennedy Agyapong, says the media in Ghana can plunge the country into war. He cites recent reportage on the death of an activist in Ejura, and he accuses the media of engaging in insightful reportage that has led to deaths. He has averred that if Ghana ever descends into a state of instability, the trigger will certainly be the media, mainstream or social media. He is also chairman of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee, and he said he was concerned about how false news was easily put out by media outlets, citing the recent case of reportage on activist Ibrahim Muhammad, a.k.a. Macho Kaka, whose death led to a deadly protest in Ejura. I wouldn't go on. I mean, there are further details, but that is the essence of this story. And I am disappointed, I must say, in the Asin Central Member of Parliament to state categorically that if there's going to be any turmoil, it is going to be the media, whether the print media, media on television or radio, or social media. I find it a bit worrying. It appears on the back of what has happened in Nigeria, even on day one, some of the questions posed to some journalists, it would appear the media were on the chopping block. We do our work. We are not perfect in any way. We don't claim perfection from any angle at all. But we have standards, and we strive to put the very best out there. So these suggestions, it would almost appear as though there's always a pushback when it comes to leadership failure. And there must be a lame duck on which you can hang, around whose neck you can hang the blame. And I think that is despicable, it is irresponsible, and it doesn't show proper leadership. It doesn't, not at all. Let's take the blame for what we are, liable for. And when the media also fault us, yes. But this kind of language, and we certainly will. Mama V, Makamedi on that matter.
Well, thank you.
Makani now.
It's just a bit confusing. I think it's a bit confusing. And I've heard people say that they're not sure what we're unraveling here. Was it the media reports or it was the killing? The events surrounding the killing of those persons protesting. And then we know there are people who have also recorded very serious injuries, So, people are a bit confused as to exactly what we're investigating here with this whole media whether it's media criticism or media attack or media backlash. But I guess we'll see. I mean, it's 10 days, right? Except that every day they've sat twice now. This will be the third day. And every day there's a time dedicated for the media. Yeah. So maybe that's also part
That's why I said it would almost appear as though we were on the chopping block, when in fact if we, an entity like Multimedia, if we hadn't put out there the visuals that we had, perhaps this committee wouldn't even be, because no one would even know, would have to take the word of whoever in leadership, the military, the police, for it. I mean, it would have been the ordinary citizens against their word against theirs. Yeah,
in the beginning, I thought our visuals would be very useful to the work of the committee, but I'm not sure.
What, you've changed your mind?
I'm not sure now, because all the references so far have been on this one video presented by the Ashanti Regional Minister, which, by the way, we're not sure what the source is, because we can't tell who shot it.
And there have even been incidents in Ejura. We can't even tell whether that specific video is reflective of what happened on that day.
But ours was live. We were streaming live that day. Yeah. But I'm not sure if our visuals will be helpful in the end. But we're just volunteering information. So if it's not useful to the committee, I mean...
We've done our bit.
Absolutely.
We fulfilled our responsibility. Let investigations reveal what happened at Ejura. That's according to Albert Kandapa, National Security Minister. And finally, deaths in road accidents January to June, a 27% increase over last year's. And that will be it for the Daily Dispatch.
Let's do the Daily Guide now on the front page. Ejura probe, youth shot at us, according to... well, they say soldier, but we know 2 soldiers appeared before the committee yesterday. Protesters had weapons, according to reporter. Okay, so would this be, because I didn't listen to the City FM reporter's account yesterday, so maybe that's what it's attributed
Likely
to.
would be him.
Yeah. All right. Vice President wants action on piracy and kidnapping. Also, $28 million for MPs' CAS. And this is getting a lot of people talking, but it's a loan, y'all. And I heard people say you don't scrutinize the executive the way you do to MPs. Is it because they're an easy target? You know you can get away with. Nobody is going to tag you, if you like. Why don't you take that fight onto the executive? That's what's on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper.
The Daily Statesman now. President Lord's Ghana-Switzerland relations. Ghana battles pirates and kidnappers. Bawumia calls for collaboration among coastal countries. And don't use live bullets to disperse crowd. Security agencies told that story on page 2. And the security agencies have been urged not to resort to the use of live bullets to control the crowd when there are riots. The appeal was made by Justice George Kingsley Kumsin, an appeals court judge, or a judge of the Court of Appeal, let's put it that way, who is chair of the 3-member committee probing the disturbances that occurred in Idra in the Ashanti region. So that is some of what he's been saying. There's also CSOs and fisheries demand end to Seiko fishing. That is on page 8 of the newspaper.
Let's go through the business finder on the front page. No room for piracy attacks if we must revive economies, according to Dr. Bawumia. Make Ghana manufacturing hub of Africa. It comes with a picture of Kwame Pienim. EcoBank present 28.8 billion Ghana cedis dividend to SNITS. And they've got the market summary, consumer price inflation, interest rate. So Bank of Ghana policy rate stands at 14.5%. 91-day Treasury bill is 14.06%. 188-day Treasury bill is 14.10%. Not much of a difference. There's the currency. US dollar now 5.7. The pound is 8.1.
8 point what?
1. Euro is 6.99. Or yeah. Okay.
We've fared pretty well against the dollar, haven't we? Over the last few months, we've done
5.7, like it's coming down, huh?
Yes, it's been pretty stable, I should say. But when it comes to the pound, the British pound, I saw it on social media somewhere. Someone said, "Be afraid of any currency that has a surname, pound sterling." and well, I guess the pound has always given us a headache, hasn't it? It's just because if you want to do anything in pounds, it just brings to mind some transaction a friend had to do, and it's a headache when you have to transact in the pound. Big headache.
To think that the euro is actually performing rather very badly against the pound at this time, because the difference, it's very significant, 6 and 8.
Well, it basically reflects our currency and its own trading against those other currencies. So it may not technically be the British pound against the euro pegged against the euro like that. Anyway, are you done with the finder?
Yes, I am. Finally,
with the BNFT, striking IEPA deal amid young after premature. That's a trade expert, Mame Awena Dokanyirige, and she says it won't develop indigenous industries to take on Africa. There's mid-year budget must be conservative to avoid fiscal slippages. Economist cautions government. We'll see what emerges in that mid-year budget. Healthcare industry sees soaring demand for telepharmacy. That's on page 2 of the paper. And then COVID-19, government seeks additional $200 million loan to scale up COVID-19 fight. Let's check out what the middle spread of the paper has. It talks about, will Green Ghana projects lead to green tourism? That's a question. It's a bit of an opinion there by Philip Gebu. And there's also talk about Rotary Club of Accra inducting a new president. On the back page, nominations open for 5th Ghana Energy Awards, and Unichem presents medical items to Rebecca Foundation. That's it for that paper. Just the mention of Rebecca Kufuor, the First Lady, though, brings to mind this post I saw about doling out sums of money to First and Second Ladies. I saw a post where someone was saying, well, this is only good until we have our first Muslim president with 4 wives. So not just a Muslim president, but a Muslim president with 4 wives. And then we would see whether we are paying all of them or whatever. But I'm sure if we maintain this and we get to that bridge, we shall eventually cross it. Let's start digging into the papers now. I'll take a few stories from some of the papers I have. Today, I did not take a look at the international pages. I shall quickly do so. Page 5. Nearly 2,100 migrants died trying to reach Spain. And you know, that is in the first 6 months of 2021. Roughly the same number during all of last year, a migrant rights group yesterday said. And you know how disastrous that is. A lot of our people also try that crossing going through, I believe it's the island of Lampedusa, many other routes that have been used across the Sahara and all of that. Deadline looms for SA police to arrest Zuma. And then on page 9, let's check out quickly what is there today. Haitian President Jovenel Moïse assassinated. And this one has been an interesting, very interesting one. I think all of the international media houses have been taking a look at it. It beats everyone's imagination at how Moïse was assassinated and his wife wounded in an attack at their home by unidentified gunmen. But we're hearing, of course, today that some people have been captured with a few others on the run. But let's come back to Ghana and delve into some of the topical matters that are being discussed. Counterterrorism project for 5 West African countries launched. That's in the middle spread of the paper. And the story says, a project on counterterrorism in 5 West African countries, including Ghana, dubbed Strengthening Response Capacities of State and Civil Society Actors in Preventing and Countering Terrorism and Violent Extremism in Coastal States in West Africa, has been launched in Accra. The project, which is being supported by the Japanese government, will be implemented by the UNDP and the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center right here in Accra. The other beneficiary countries are Benin, Togo, the Ivory Coast, and Burkina Faso. Now, if you look at the Daily Graphic's number crunch, it talks about more than 6,000 fatalities being recorded by the UN in the 3 Sahelian countries of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso in 2020. Of course, I was speaking a bit earlier about how the Gulf of Guinea is the highest, the topmost when it comes to piracy attacks globally. And that is a script that ought to be changed as quickly as possible. But let's, on that same page, get into what the military has been saying so far at the Kumsin Committee. Idra disturbances inquiry, our intervention saved the situation. That's according to the military. And the General Officer commanding the Central Command of the Ghana Armed Forces, Brigadier General Joseph Apfor, has told the Ministerial Committee of Inquiry into the Idra disturbances that the intervention by soldiers during the protest in the town saved the situation from escalating. He said, but for the intervention of the military, more lives could have been lost, adding that his men did not do anything out of the ordinary, but only followed a military standard operating procedure, what is known as SOP. The Brigadier General, who was testifying before the committee in Kumasi yesterday, said the military was compelled to use minimum force to control the crowd during the demonstration over the alleged murder of Ibrahim Muhammad. According to him, the soldiers had earlier issued a verbal warning to the irate crowd to retreat, but they did not budge, compelling the soldiers to fire warning shots. So we've got all sorts of things. I intentionally took the time to also follow on social media, even as we were airing on Joy News, the proceedings of the committee's work. And I noticed the sort of comments that people were posting about the use of the word missile, for example. Of course, a hand-thrown element, projectile, if you like, when you're throwing something, whether it's a Molotov cocktail, a stone or something, yes, it can be given certain definitions. People have said that, well, people might have been wielding weapons, none were used, and all of that. And whether maybe there was that balance, proportionality between someone throwing a stone or using sticks versus someone with live bullets. We've also heard, for example, how that military officer we see aiming so to speak. I'm just doing it so that you know exactly what I mean. Aiming into the crowd, actually did not fire. So these are some of the latest developments, and we're being told now by the military that they were actually using minimum force to control the crowd. Of course, there have been concerns. Justice Kumsin himself has spoken about involving the military in such incidents and how they ought to be taken out. Because let's face it, their SOPs, their modus operandi is very different from what you'd expect of the Ghana Police Service. So only time will tell. We'll wait for the committee to come out with its findings. We'll see what those findings will amount to, and whether anything at all will amount or be generated from those findings. And then I guess we can take it from there. There's also the story on the back page of the paper. 4 arrested in Western Region Galamsey pit swoop, and 2 Chinese have been arrested for allegedly facilitating an illegal mining expedition by some local people in a forest in the Western Region. And Ligo Hua 40 and Wei Hua Fen 37 were caught in the act at Kwekukrom in the Nzema East municipality while superintending over affairs as financiers who had employed hundreds of locals in the illegal mining business, commonly called Galamsey. So these individuals had employed over 100 people, hundreds, in fact, of locals in this illegal business. They were arrested along with 2 Ghanaian accomplices, Gambo Akpanda, 29, and Karim Abdullahi, 28. In terms of equipment, the team also seized the equipment among other logistics used by the miners, including 16 jumbo gallons of diesel, 1 water hose, 1 shanfan, motorized machine, and fuel pumping motor, and 3 excavators at the site. Another group and their excavator operators managed to escape. So that is it for that story. At least the system biting in terms of curbing all these pockets of illegality when it comes to Galamsey. Let's check out page 2 of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, where Albert Kandapa is talking about letting investigations reveal what happened at Ejura. And that story practically saying, right before we go online and check out some more stories, the Minister for National Security, Albert Kandapa, has cautioned against hasty conclusions following the killing of 2 persons in Ejura when an armed military officer was seen aiming into a crowd that was protesting and demanding justice for the slain community activist Ibrahim Muhammad. Speaking yesterday at the opening ceremony of a 3-day national stakeholders dialogue on the theme, Countering Post-2020 Election Violence and Building Consensus for Greater Political Tolerance, Mr. Kandapa said investigations into the incident will provide details on what truly happened. So what really happened in Ejura? The truth with Ejura is that people are drawing conclusions when nobody knows what exactly happened. As the head of the security apparatus, I really don't know what happened, and yet people are drawing their own conclusions, and I think that is the danger we have in this country. That is his thinking. Of course, we also have footage from what really happened, which we've been putting out there. And at least that creates, it draws a picture. It gives us a bird's eye view of what exactly transpired on the day. Of course, we'd have to put the pieces together and with the committee's work, hopefully, bring some closure to the matter. One thing is clear. We need peace in the country. But in getting that peace, there must also be justice. People have died. Lives have been taken. People have been injured. Those who are responsible on whatever side, whether on the side of the task force, the military, the police, or on the protesting, on the side of the protesting youth, whoever is culpable must have their heads roll. Not literally, but people must face up to what they are culpable for. And let's ensure that that is done. That is the bottom line. Well, thank you very much for staying with us in the course of the news review. Right before we go, though, right before sports, happy birthday to Squadron Leader Isaac Opong of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Is from Ekosam and the boys. Yeah, Ekosam and the boys. Squadron Leader, happy birthday to you. On that note, we'll be getting into more of the Euros and other action, as yesterday, England escaped by the skin of their teeth, beating Denmark by 2 goals to 1. More coming up in sports with Muftau Nabila. Do stay.